I'm sure most of us enjoy a visit to our local, meeting with friends, having a drink and possibly a meal. However, we're in danger of losing many of our favourite pubs. Across the country, 30 pubs are closing down each week. Over the last 5 years, Redhill alone has lost 7 or 8 pubs. This is the story of 2 pubs currently threatened, the Limes in Merstham and the Garibaldi in Redhill.
My name is Chris Lowe. I'm chairman of the Limes Action Group.
The Limes pub in Merstham is under threat of closure. How did this come about?
Owned by Enterprise Inns, we found out that they wanted to get rid of the pub, the main reason being for profiteering, in my point of view. The land apparently is worth a great deal of money in the area, of course, and we heard that the bid that took it over was 1.3 million.
So what is this proposed development?
The development was really out of keeping for the area, far too large and bulky, and it meant that the whole pub would be totally demolished, and none of us wanted that. The development was, I think it was 8 flats and 4 houses all crammed in onto half an acre, and not in keeping with the street scene at all, which is mainly Victorian housing in South Merstham, and totally out of character, and we all didn't want that, and really we don't want our local community pub to close, of course. And we thought, well, what can we do to try and stop this? We found out this rather late, unfortunately, but we've done our best after that to try to stop the actual development taking place.
My name's Chris Nolte and I'm Vice Chairman of the Friends of the Garibaldi.
So like the Limes pub in Merstham, the Garibaldi in Redhill, that pub is also under threat. How did this come about?
Well, we found out at the beginning of December that a planning application had been put into Reigate and Banstead Council to demolish the building and turn it into 4 townhouses. The reasons given for this were that the business was no longer viable.
So how did the locals take this news?
The people within the immediate vicinity, such as Mill Street, Garibaldi Road, were obviously very upset that their local pub is going to be taken down. The building's been there for close to 150 years probably. The residents and locals, even from further afield, obviously were straight online to put in their objections to the planning, and a group of us got together and decided that we would try and form some sort of committee to stop it from happening and to save our pub. So far we've put in an asset of community value nomination to Reigate and Banstead Borough Council. We're waiting for that to be decided.
So there are 2 campaigns. The Limes has been awarded the status of Asset of Community Value, or ACV. So exactly what is an ACV? Essentially, it's land or property of importance to the local community, which is subject to additional protection from development under the Localism Act 2011. Voluntary and community organisations can nominate an asset to be included on their local authority's register of asset of community value. This is what the Limes campaign has achieved. Once registered, such a property can't be demolished or its use be changed, without those who use it, in this case the regulars at the pub, having a say in the planning process. Of course, the owners of both the Limes and the Garibaldi could sell, but there is a 6-month period where the local community have the chance to raise the money to purchase it. But how does this help the campaign to keep a pub open? Councillor Jonathan Essex explains.
I think it helps in a lot of different ways. So in terms of the Garibaldi campaign, it really brought the community together. I think someone said at the planning committee meeting that you only start to value something when it's under threat. And boy, did that group of residents come together. And the thing that, because you can have an asset of community value, it gave a reason for the campaign to have hope. So it wasn't just fighting against something, you were fighting for something. So as well as against turning a pub into housing, there was the opportunity of fighting for this being recognised as a vital part of our local community.
The Limes campaign achieved the ACV status last December.
We formally applied for the ACV. This was the first one and the only one that the council actually did finally approve at the second attempt, I might add. And we had to jump through a few hoops. We had to form a proper group with a constitution, not just a group of people moaning at the bar. And we did that, and we filled out extensive forms. The council did approve our application early in December now, which is really great news, and hopefully it'll be the first step where they do recognise that pubs like the Limes at Merstham are used and very, very popular for many, many things. We really want to keep this local open for people.
The proposal for the Garibaldi is that it will be demolished and replaced by 4 townhouses. This proposal came before the Council's Planning Committee last week and was roundly rejected to the elation of the large group of Garibaldi regulars who attended the meeting.
Everyone cheered, everyone was getting up. Even the chairman of the Planning Committee had to sort of acknowledge that we were all really happy and gave us a couple of minutes to leave so that they could continue, because he obviously knew we need to go off and go to the pub.
One councillor on the Planning Committee, Councillor Kuka, highlighted that this planning application had generated more comments and objections from the local community than he could remember.
I think it was brilliant that the fact that one of them mentioned that this is almost a asset of the community with a pub attached, because there are so many groups that come and congregate there and meet up there to it is a community asset in its own right. There just happens to be a pub as well, so that's why it should be included under their CF1 borough plan.
But whilst the planning application was rejected, the Friends of the Garibaldi have yet to gain the ACV status. Does such support help with such an application? Councillor Essex.
The planning result doesn't in any way affect the asset for community value status, which hopefully should be resolved later in February. But what it does is sits hand in glove with it. So if you get the asset of community value, and we've got this resounding decision on the planning committee, which looks like this isn't a borderline case. This is the planning committee sending a clear signal out that this is a pub that should be kept as a pub, a building that should be retained as a community asset, and the asset for community value then gives the community 6 months to discuss, to negotiate, to approach the current owners and landlords to see if they're not interested in carrying on themselves, that the community could potentially take over that public house as a going concern.
And if their application for an ACV is approved, what will be the impact on any future planning application?
I think the asset for community value, the ACV, it has some weight under the planning system. It doesn't mean that planning would automatically change as a result of it, but it's something which can be considered in a strong way.
So with our tale of 2 pubs, how do the locals see the future? Firstly, the Limes in Merstham.
Having acquired this status, it does hopefully put a hold on any further development for at least 6 months. Now, that 6-month period is up in June, July and can be extended by the council. There's also a rather more complicated issue where the council have the power of Article 4 under the Localism Act to actually maintain the fact that this is a good community pub and stop development on the site area altogether because of that. And we're hoping that we may even get this status, which may be well on a sort of permanent level, where the council really do back us up properly. The council have been known to own pubs in the area before. Certainly this, I think, has got a very good case for the council not to own the pub, but to actually back it as much as possible in staying open in the area. The only one, as I say, in the area.
And the Garibaldi?
Well, the ultimate goal is to ensure that the Garibaldi remains the Garibaldi and a pub. We don't mind how that happens. If there's somebody else wants to come in and buy it, or possibly if we were to come in as a community group and purchase it, that would be great for us. Any result that means that the pub remains as a pub.
And a final word from Councillor Essex.
Certainly that group of Garibaldi regulars have become an awful lot closer together as a community, and their connection is through the pub, and hopefully now this pub will continue. It's been a brilliant campaign to be on the edge of, and I hope the fact that we're progressing towards getting an asset for community value means that campaign will continue and will be successful in the long term.